6 safety tools that you'll regret not using at your session 0. Me and Horse are going to have 3 each, so let's just get straight into it. I'll start off. Will I, Horse?
Take it away, Harry.
Yeah, I'll start off. So my first one is called the X card. Now this is a great safety tool, and it can also be transferred into online. But let me just get the IRL version out first. So the X card is the DM hands out to how many players there are a card. Now it could be any card. It doesn't have to specifically have an X, but if you have an X, it makes it much more distinguishable. If you just have it like a marker, you can mark on a card if you like, or you can just do it with a normal deck of cards and pull it out. Make sure it's completely different from anything else at the table, really. And if a DM is describing an environment or a scene or just saying things, the player can just touch that card and the DM will completely move on, no questions asked. This is one of the best ways to stop things getting inappropriate or people just getting uncomfortable at the table. I think this is one of the strongest safety tools in D&D. And I was thinking how you could implement it into, because nowadays, ever since COVID and stuff like this, people are playing online. And I was thinking Discord has a way where you can use an emote. So maybe designate an emo that you could just use, like raise a hand, and the DM will move on. And that is the X card. A way you can use it in Discord and a way it should be used in IRL. Stay safe. Now, Horse, tell them the next one, will you?
So, lines and veils. What is lines and veils? It's most commonly used at games or played on an actual table. The DM will usually print off a sheet which has a section for lines and a section for veils. But this will also be done through Google Forms as well. Lines and veils provides the kind of anonymity of what issues want to be avoided during the game. So essentially, you just think of it as a piece of paper. With one section you have your lines, and in the other section you have your veils. And you just have space to write down which are just your lines, which is your veils. Now, with the difference between lines, think of lines as a solid line. So something you never want to cross. You never want to come across a line in the game. Whereas veils are things that you don't mind every now and then. Kind of sporadically maybe placed out throughout the campaign. But you don't want it to be a constant thing. So let's say somebody is maybe not a big fan of the gore. Let's say, so maybe racism completely off the cards, like most people probably. So racism would be a hard line. We don't want that coming up in your campaign at all. Where gore might be a case of somebody might not really enjoy the gory parts of kind of like a medieval fantasy. So maybe only very rarely do you get maybe slicing someone's fucking arm off or something.
Content warning. Now, this is kind of crazy because it should be common sense. But if everyone had common sense, the world would be a better place. Content warning. You have a campaign written out in your mind as a DM. You look at your players. You know what's going to go on. Well, you can shape what everything is going on. And let's say if you want to hit like a little bit of a torture scene, or a little bit of, let's say torture, or a hint of like elves hating dwarves, like racism undertones, make sure everyone at the table knows. Make sure if they're going through a grim, dark campaign, that everyone at the table knows. Let's not just say, I put a player just goes, I put my hand through the door, and it gets chopped off manually, and there's blood everywhere. And the player is in shock, most likely, and not going to say nothing, because they're in shock that happened. Make sure everyone at the table knows what the hell is going on. What are they mentally getting themselves into? Like, is this just going to be a cozy town where people are just making houses and stuff? Or is this going to be Warhammer Fantasy where I go down the street, hit my leg and get the smallpox? You can hit these mature content if there's content warning in advance. If everyone is on the same boat, well then let that boat sail. If you're on a boat and a lot of people don't know, they're going to try to jump off that boat, and that's going to be a bad old time. Yes, content warning is a common sense thing to do, but not a lot of people do it. So do it.
So the next safety tool is known as CATS. CATS stands for Concept, Aim, Theme. Fuck, I forgot the last one. Shit. So the next safety tool is called CATS, and CATS stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. So this safety tool is mainly for the use of the DMs in the sense of you can provide your players with a very detailed idea of what you kind of expect from the game. So maybe someone doesn't really enjoy horror elements or something like that, where you can make it very clear at the beginning of your game what each what each player can expect. So concept is quite literally what the game is about. You know, just a summary of the settings, maybe some of the characters, the main overarching plot that you expect, without going into details. You know, you don't want to ruin your own story. Maybe given just an overview, maybe you can say it's going to start as like a bit of a murder mystery and then lead on from there or something. So the aim, so this is where you get to discuss with your players what the aim of them playing in your campaign. Because as much as you always have to remember, it's a very collaborative effort. Where if the DM is maybe going for one thing with the aim, like let's say going back to the murder mystery sort of play style, maybe the players are more just about, you know, power leveling and just killing things. Maybe they don't have an interest in becoming like the Batman of their world, one of the greatest detectives we've ever seen. So it's very important that both the DMs now, and in saying this, right? In saying this, just because maybe the aim of the DM and the players doesn't line up, doesn't mean that change everything to suit. It might be a case where you need to part ways with some of those players and look for new players who want, because it depends, because as a DM, sometimes you want to run a certain campaign, you want to run a game of X type, which is why the CATS allows you to kind of set your ground rules. And then you can come to a discussion on whether you want to change something, whether you're willing to change something. And maybe certain things, maybe the player might ask you to change something, or they're not really interested in that type of goal or aim. And you might just have to say, well, actually, I think you might need to look for another group sort of situation, you know? Because at the same time, the DM has to enjoy running the campaign as much as the players enjoy playing. So the tone of your game is kind of, I feel for my games has always been very loose, or I always would like to have a serious tone, but then, you know, sometimes it gets a bit goofy. So tone can be a hard one to really nail down, but I guess it's good to give what type of tone at the beginning, just to have an overall feel of how the campaign is going to play. And so subject matter is obviously one of the bigger ones, in the sense of this is engaging or discussing that kind of critical topics. So the subject matter section is where you can implement the different other safety tools we mentioned. The fucking check-in happy.
The open door policy. Yes, the open door policy is really straightforward, but a lot of people suffer it. It can really ruin friendships and ruin a lot of connections you made at a table, because not every table is meant for everyone. Just because your friends outside doesn't mean you're going to click so much at the table. The D&D table can be very... You just need that right vibe, should I say. But having an open door policy, if anyone feels a little bit uncomfortable, they can just leave. They can just go whenever they want. They can go in the middle of a session. There shouldn't be any backlash. If you are uncomfortable at the table and you want to leave, there shouldn't be any repercussions from your friends or anyone at the table. It's an open door policy. You can come in and you can leave whenever you want. It's up to your discretion. Now, there is to, like, don't be in, like, the DM puts a lot of stuff into it, but if this open door policy should be like a good 10 sessions. And if you don't feel like it's right, then leave. Just leave. Because it's not going to get any better. And if it's making you feel a certain way, uncomfortable, just tell your DM, I'm going to use the open door policy. I'm not gelling the way I want to gel. And or you just play a different way than I play. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could be that they're really combat orientated and they just want to do combat all the time, and you're just a heavy role player. There's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with wanting to do what you want to do at the table. So an open door policy is massive.
So this next safety tool is called the check-in. Now the check-in is actually more used during play than it is in session 0, but I think it's a good thing to implement and to bring up in your session 0 and say, okay, we're going to run a check-in. We're going to run a check-in system, in the sense of maybe you could say every 3 sessions we'll have a check-in, and maybe at the beginning or end of that session we will stop and we'll just have a go around the table, make sure everyone is still comfortable with everything that's going on, make sure everything's still going fine. In game, I think a check-in is also very important too. I listened to a podcast for years, and they used to run this thing. And it wasn't as much as a safety tool, but more as for the how the players thought their characters were doing in this world. So maybe there's been some traumatic things. Once again, bring it back to maybe like they seen someone get eviscerated, like very gory situation. You ask your players to check in as their characters and see how does your character actually feel about that situation. Like how will they react next time they see something like that as well. So I think check-in is very good to allow to provide to your players, or sorry, to mention to your players at the session 0, then they know that they can have a chat about maybe something they didn't like, maybe something they did like, every couple of sessions or so. And then also, once again, as a player, or sorry, as the characters, I think having a check-in is actually really good because it gets everyone a little kind of glimpse into how people are thinking, and it helps. I often feel it helps players feel more in tune with their characters as well. Well, this has been 6 safety tools with Dopes and Dragons. I've been Horth. He's been Happy.
And if you'd like that episode of Dopes and Dragons and you want to hear us speak on more topics, make sure you like, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, and we'll see you in the next one.
And we shall see you next time.